Hello, and welcome to the man who knows everything. It's Wednesday, and I've got 10 facts for you, all about the Victorians. So, yesterday's topic was space and planets, and there are a couple of people in the comments who've given us some facts that I dare give. In fact, there are a couple of people who've claimed to have beaten me, but as we all know, any fact that you've got is just a fact that I ain't given. So, Lola's been in touch again. Her fact was that the biggest asteroid ever discovered was 600 miles wide. That's a big old asteroid, eh? And Sophie and Emily claimed to have got 10 facts that I didn't give. 10 completely different facts, but they've only sent me two. Two of the favourite ones. One is that astronauts, when they've been in space, they claim to have had the best night's sleep they've ever had. Now, I think that might be to do with the fact that they're floating and it's completely silent. So I imagine that would be quite restful and quite peaceful. It might be lovely to sleep like that, just floating around in space. Not a peep. And their second fact they sent was that the diameter of the sun is the equivalent to that of 109 Earths. That's massive. Also, we were sent in some facts from Milo. He's told us that Saturn has got 60 moons, and the planet that's most likely to have life on it is over 50 light years away. So that's quite a distance, eh? He also sent us a little kind of a little pun, I suppose. The fact that Neil Armstrong, Neil A, if you say that backwards, it spells alien. Well, I've got another one for you, Milo. I don't know if you know, but Buzz Aldrin, the second man on Earth, second man on the moon, his mum, her name was Marion Moon. Buzz Aldrin's mum was called Marion Moon, and then he went to be the second person to walk on the moon. Crazy, are you? Anyway, today's topic, the Victorians. Here are 10 facts about the Victorian era. Number one, the Victorian era was from 1837 through to 1901, and it's called the Victorian era because of Queen Victoria that was on the throne during that period, and she is the second longest reigning monarch that we've ever had. Until she was the first, until our Queen Elizabeth II, she's overtaken her. So Queen Victoria reigned for 64 years. 64 years on the throne. It's a very long time. And she was the first monarch to live in Buckingham Palace. She moved into Buckingham Palace, and then ever since then, it's been the home of our reigning monarch. So that was fact number one. Fact number two is that the Victorian era saw the Industrial Revolution. So it changed the way that Britain worked, it changed the way that Britain looked, and there were loads of inventions at this time as well. There were things like the telephone was invented, the motor car was invented, bicycles were invented, the moving film was invented, typewriters were invented, and they even invented a way of turning iron into steel so that they could build things with it, like massive bridges and railways, which brings me on to fact number three. Steam was really important at this time in our history because steam was able to power trains and it was able to power boats, so people were able to go to places they could never go to before. And because of the steel industry, they were able to build massive railway networks, so big cities like London, Glasgow, Manchester, they were all connected, and so people could travel between them much faster. So before that, they had to rely on horses, and to go from Birmingham to London, it used to take 12 hours on an horse, in a horse-drawn carriage. When the railways came along, it only took 6, so that's half the time to get from Birmingham to London, which is marvellous for all the Victorians. And so because of that, a lot of people moved towards the cities because there was a lot of work to be had in the cities. So people moved out to the countryside and lived in the cities. And at one point, 50% of the UK population lived in cities in very cramped conditions. So this is fact number four. Because there were so many different inventions, a lot of these new inventions and new machines replaced people's jobs. So things they were doing by hand before were suddenly being done by a machine. And so people found themselves there to work. And so a lot of the time, they would find themselves in what was known as a workhouse. Now, a workhouse was a place where people would live, and in exchange for food and shelter and medical care, they would work. So they didn't get paid, but they had somewhere to stay, something to eat, and they looked after them if they were poorly. But they weren't very nice places at all. Horrible. And sometimes different family members ended up in different workhouses. So family members were separated from each other. So it wasn't a very nice place to be at all. And if you've ever read Oliver Twist, or if you've ever seen the musical Oliver, or seen the film, he starts off life in a workhouse. So horrible places in the orphanages as well. So that was fact number 4. Now, fact number 5, if you are in a workhouse and you were a kid, chances are you were probably working anyway, because kids used to work during the Victorian period and they got paid less than the adults did, which I don't think is very fair if you're doing the same job. And the reason they employed kids was because they were small, so they could do tiny little jobs with their tiny little hands and their tiny little bodies that grown adults couldn't do. So very often they were employed in coal mines, they were employed in factories, and they were employed to go up chimneys and clean them. So it was often very dangerous work. So sometimes in factories they would crawl underneath the machinery if it got a little bit stuck. But if that machinery started up again while they were under there, they could be in real danger. So it was really dangerous work. So fact number 5 was, if you were a kid at the Victorian times, chances are you were probably working. But this did all change by the time that Queen Victoria was left the throne. So by the end of her reign, Queen Victoria was a big fan of education, and she thought it should be for everybody. So she made school compulsory for all children, whether you were rich or poor. So by 1901, lots of children were accessing education in a way that they couldn't have before. So because lots of people were learning how to read now, that meant that people could read for pleasure rather than just for learning, particularly children. So because more people enjoyed reading, there was a big boom in lots of literature. So loads of important books were written around that time as well. Lots of big authors kind of appeared out of nowhere, really, and just wrote these magnificent works like by Oscar Wilde, Emily Bronte, Charles Dickens, and stories like Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was written at this time, and also Treasure Island, because a lot of young readers like to read adventure stories. So that is fact number 7. Fact number 8 was the first time people used electricity was during this period as well. And in fact, the first time electric lights were used were all in the UK. So we were the first people to use electric street lighting. There were buildings that were lit by electricity for the first time. The first one was a theatre. And then there was an entire village that was lit by electricity for the very first time anywhere in the world. Fact number 9 was that during this period, we also invented the police force. So the very first police force was during the Victorian period, and it was created by a man called Robert Peel. Now, if you know any Roberts in your life, you might know that sometimes Roberts like to go by the name Rob, or sometimes Bob or Bobby. And so police officers got the nickname Bobbies because they were invented by Robert Peel. So you get a Bobby on the beat, a police officer who's strolling the streets looking for ne'er-do-wells, eh? And finally, fact number 10 about the Victorians and the Victorian era is about some of their customs that we still do to this day that were invented at that time. So Christmas cards became very popular at that time because of Queen Victoria. She popularised the Christmas card. She also popularised the Christmas tree because Christmas trees were around, but not everybody had them. And it became a tradition because there was a drawing of Queen Victoria and her family around a Christmas tree that they decorated. And because loads of people saw it, They all wanted one in their own houses as well. Christmas crackers were invented at this time by a man who owned a sweet shop, and he wanted to put a little crackle inside his sweet wrappers because he wanted to create the crackling sound that a log maked on their fire. So the Christmas cracker was invented at this time, and also, which is very fitting for this time of year, the Victorians popularised the chocolate Easter egg. So if you are lucky enough to get a chocolate Easter egg this Easter, then you can thank the Victorians for it. So those are my 10 facts I can see already in the comments, and I think it's somebody else from industry because it's appearing as industry's comments. They're telling us that the English invented the steam engine, the first passenger train killed its creator, and children as young as 3 worked as chimney sweeps. That's all in the comments, so I can't wait to see what other facts people have got. So if you've got a fact about the Victorians that I don't have, I know it already, but it's just interesting to find out what you've got on your lists. Stick it in the comments below. If you've got a suggestion about what topic you would like to challenge the man who knows everything about, then also stick that in the comments as well, but do it under an adult supervision. So, your topic for tomorrow. Remember, you can use your own knowledge. You can maybe look in some books if you've got them at home about this topic, or with an adult, you can look on the internet and see what you can find. Tomorrow's topic is dinosaurs. So, any facts that you know about dinosaurs, get learning, get researching, get creative, and I'll see you tomorrow at 1 for my 10 facts all about dinosaurs. Ta-ra,